From Wish TV, All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics. Focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Phil Sanchez. State lawmakers tomorrow will begin their 2024 legislative session. House Republicans already have said they plan to focus on Indiana's poor performance on reading scores and school attendance. House Democrats say they have their own ideas to fix those problems. Our government reporter Garrett Bergquist talked to the House Minority Leader about what we can expect from his caucus.
Let's bring in House Minority Leader Phil Giaquinta. Leader, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Garrett. Good to be here with you.
So Republicans are saying they want to keep this session short and focused. Based on what you've seen in previous years, how likely do you think that's going to be the case?
Well, as I like to say, it may be a short session, but we still have some big issues out there to tackle. We will, House Democrats, as always, will put forth some things that we think will help improve the lives of Hoosiers. I know what we're up against calendar-wise. We know it's a short session. These things tend to move pretty rapidly, but we'll be ready to go on January 8th, and looking forward to the session and looking, again, to do some good things for Hoosiers.
You'll unveil House Democrats' priorities during your floor speech on Monday. What can you tell us about some of the things your caucus will focus on?
Well, certainly some of the things that I think we've been hearing about those throughout the summer and early fall with regards to child care costs. This is something, frankly, that House Democrats have been trying to address over the past couple of sessions. And, someone reminded me the other day that child care costs are it's more expensive now to send a child to child care than it is to a public university. And when we look at how are we going to ramp up our workforce, this is one of the ways that we can do it by making child care more affordable for folks. And we can do that in a couple of different ways, whether it's increase the child tax credit or make it do something for healthcare workers to encourage folks to go into that field.
Some of the things you just mentioned are somewhat fiscal in nature, and historically Republicans have opposed opening up the budget during a non-budget year. Are there certain things that you would want to focus on that might make changes to the child care system without impacting the budget?
Well, I would say this. We have opened the budget before in short sessions. Recently, we just did that fact in the last short session. So this is not unusual to do. Look, if it's a priority, then it's a priority, and we should make it that. We've been facing a child care crisis now, I think, for several years. Again, House Democrats have proposed solutions in the past during budget years, only to see those amendments and ideas be voted down by the House Republicans. So we frankly probably shouldn't even be in this position if we had taken care of business during a long budget year, but we didn't. So we're in a short session, and opening the budget, if that's what needs to be done, then that's what we need to do to help fix this problem.
Right now, it appears education will be a major priority as well this session. What are some things we can expect from House Democrats on literacy and school attendance in particular?
Well, when it comes to, there's been a lot of discussion about the third grade reading test. And as I said the other day with a group of educators, we really need to be more proactive. And I believe that we need to fully fund pre-K, make it affordable. We have areas across the state that it's either too expensive or there's not enough access to pre-K. And if you look at what other states have done with their pre-K program and the results that they're getting from the third grade test scores, much better than ours. But there's other things too with regards to trying to improve those test scores. How about making the classrooms smaller, paying our teachers more. We've had a lot of turnover in the teaching field. A lot of those things all lead to some of the results that we've seen with the poor results that we've seen with our third grading test scores. So there's things that we can do, but it's going to take some resources, whether that means helping out in summer school to make sure that we get these kids up to where they need to be. The question is, it's going to be debated whether or not we're going to hold students back another year. The studies that I have shown that is not a good idea.
The governor will unveil his policy priorities on Monday and then in the State of the State address on Tuesday evening. What will you be listening for?
Well, I'd be interested to see what he has to his ideas with regards to the issues that I have just outlined, and see what he has to say about that. He's only just has a few months left. There's going to be some other discussion items with regards to the LEAP project that we hear going on over in Tippecanoe County with the water issue. And really, I'm just always curious as to what he's going to do with regards to improving everyday lives of Hoosiers. I'm always looking forward to the governor's speech. I thought he came up with some pretty good ideas that we supported last year with regards to textbook funding, things like that. In fact, I think the House Democrats even stood up and clapped a couple of times. So if he has good ideas, we'll be there to support him.
House Minority Leader Phil Giaquinta, thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you.
All right, coming up, Congressman Jim Banks tells us why he still won't support any budget deal without a border security package. Welcome back. Congressman Jim Banks says he won't support any budget deal that doesn't cut spending and add border security measures. This as we are now just 2 weeks away from a potential government shutdown. He sat down with our government reporter Garrett Bergquist to discuss the border and former President Donald Trump's rhetoric in his campaign speeches.
With us now is Congressman Jim Banks. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Great to be here.
So we now have about 2 weeks left before some government departments start to run out of money. What are you looking for in a budget deal?
Well, we just passed the $34 trillion mark of our national debt. So I won't vote for any continuing resolution, any spending bill that doesn't actually cut spending and at the same time doesn't place an emphasis on securing the border. H.R. 2 was the House Republican bill that we passed out of the House early in the Congress. It's sitting in the Senate, hasn't moved at all. That would place more emphasis on securing the border, return to some of the Trump policies that worked to stop illegals coming over our southern border. That needs to be the top priority of any spending bill, leverage any spending fight to secure our own border, and stop wasting taxpayer dollars.
Why tie the funding of so many other essential government services to the border?
Well, I think the border is the single most important issue facing our country today. I mean, last month, 300,000 illegal crossings, a record number of illegals coming into our country. More illegals have come into America since Joe Biden has been president than the entire population of the state of Indiana. I mean, this is catastrophic. The drugs that are flowing into our country, the crime coming into our country, and the long-term effects of all of that is going to have a devastating impact on America. So we got to do something to secure our own border, make that a funding priority, more Border Patrol agents, but also in the catch and release policies of the Biden administration, and go back to the Trump remain in Mexico policies. I think this is critical to the survival and the future of our country and needs to be a major priority in any spending bill that comes forward.
Democrats have basically indicated that H.R. 2 is dead on arrival with them. Is there anything in there that you might be willing to compromise on? I know the Senate's been working on some sort of package.
Yeah, at this point, the compromise is Democrats working with Republicans to do what we have to do to secure the border. I mean, this is so important to America, and I invite all of my Democrat colleagues to come and work with us in the Republican majority to figure out how to get that done. But at the end of the day, $34 trillion national debt, that's going to cripple the future of this country for our kids and our grandkids if we don't do something about it. And anytime we have a spending bill, that's an opportunity for us to cut wasteful spending. The time to do that is now, or that national debt is going to keep getting worse. Inflation is an outcome of the national debt, and we've got to rein in, cut wasteful spending, address inflation. It's so important to our country's future.
Former President Donald Trump, in some of his recent speeches, has called his opponents vermin. He said that immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, and he said, in his words, he would not be a dictator, quote, except for one day. Now, you have endorsed former President Trump for another term. Is that appropriate behavior for someone seeking that office?
Well, I'm fully in support of President Trump. He was a great president. I believe he's going to be a great president again, and have little doubt at this point that he's going to be the Republican nominee, and believe that he's going to win handily versus Joe Biden next November. And I think President Trump is right in focusing on the border and what the Biden administration has done to radically change America with an open border. Millions of illegals who have come into this country who haven't been held accountable. There's no effort to send them back over the border. The Trump administration policies of remain in Mexico were a deterrent to illegals coming across the border. The low numbers of illegal crossings on Trump's watch versus the record-breaking numbers of illegals crossing into our country today on Joe Biden's watch is alarming. And then the drugs, fentanyl flooding into our country is poisonous, is killing Americans at a large rate. And the Mexican drug cartels are directly responsible for that. And Donald Trump knows that we should be using our military focus at the southern border, taking out the Mexican drug cartels. That's a national security interest for this country that is significant, that Joe Biden has no interest in protecting. He doesn't want to protect our southern border. So I share President Trump's focus and his passion for focusing on America first and solving our problems here at home, and believe that he's spot on.
Is there a risk here, though, that kind of rhetoric, coupled with some of the enforcement actions at the border, are leading to a rise in anti-Hispanic sentiment here in the United States? Is that fueling violence against them, such as what we saw with the El Paso shooting a couple years ago?
Most legal immigrants in America understand that this is a giant crisis for our country and a backwards immigration policy. I have a local immigration issue in my district that shows how backwards all of this is. It's way too easy to come across the border illegally, and then the legal process is completely broken. And it's all because of Joe Biden's first acts as president, when he came into the White House signing executive orders to stop construction of the border wall, return to the Obama-era policies of catch and release, and ending the Trump policies of remain in Mexico. And that created a catastrophe at the southern border unlike anything that we've ever seen before in this country, with millions of illegals coming into our country. The economic effect of that, the crime effect of that, the drugs that have come from all of that is devastating to America. So I believe President Trump is going to win, and he's going to win largely because of his focus on securing the southern border and doing everything that it takes to do that. And I fully support him in that.
All right, coming up, Indiana's best political team on what they're watching for in the 2024 session. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in two members of Indiana's best political team, Republican Tom John and Democrat Kip Tu. Good to see you both. Governor Eric Holcomb, as you very well know, will unveil his policy proposals tomorrow. He will then deliver his final State of the State address on Tuesday night. He has said that we can expect reading and childcare to be a part of his plans as well. Tom, I want to start with you this week. What will you be listening for from the governor on Tuesday night?
Well, I think we'll hear a couple things. Obviously, this is the last time to speak to the citizens of the state. I think you'll hear some recap of the successes he's had in transportation and economic development, maybe even navigating COVID. And I do think you'll see this continuation of what you've seen in the last couple of years, whereas he's really focused on people, healthcare. You're going to hear early childhood education. You're going to see probably a continuation of the healthcare to the extent of what's been happening, what's going to continue to happen with that, and workforce development. Because obviously, if you have a job, you have hope, you have a better place. I think he'll continue that trend that's been going. And so it'll be a recap, and looking forward to finishing through the tape.
Kip, same question.
Yeah, I think what we won't hear. I think that Tom's right at the spot on what we probably will hear. What we won't hear is how he led the state to being second-class citizens by outlawing abortion, the war on LGBTQ community in this state. We won't be hearing much about that because the governor knows that that's not popular statewide, but it's part of his record. As to the session itself, I don't expect big things. It would be nice to know. It would be nice if the legislature investigated as to why it is that we had $1 billion mistake in the Medicaid budget. It's pretty substantial, and we really don't have any answer to where that is. I expect the budget will be opened up to try to figure that out and fix whatever problem there was there. I'd like to see some forward movement on marijuana legalization. Not sure that that's going to happen, but we're well past the time when we ought to be doing. All 4 of our surrounding states have it. We're an island. Those are some of my thoughts.
Okay. We will, of course, be watching. It's worth noting, gentlemen, that this session will play out against the backdrop of the 2024 elections. The entire House and half the Senate are up for re-election. Kip, we'll stay with you here. How do you think this election in particular will shape what we see at the State House, over the next 2 months?
Well, it's going to be, I think it's going to be another fascinating presidential election year. We're on the precipice of potentially living in a democracy. Donald Trump has already admitted that he's going to be a dictator on day one. He said, once you're a dictator, I don't know how you stop being a dictator on day 2. He really should be in prison and not be running for president of the United States again. And so it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch as it unfolds. He may be indicted, or is indicted. He may be convicted and still running for president of the United States. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays in the state politics. Jim Banks, you had on earlier, is 100% in support of Donald Trump, even when he says, immigrants are poisoning the blood of Americans. I found that astounding that he didn't reject that comment. I find it astounding, really, that Jim Banks and Giaquinta, on one hand, say we got to protect people's right to vote in Colorado for President Trump, and yet they're trying to take it away from people who might want to vote for John Ross here in the state of Indiana.
Tom, I'll let you respond to that. I also want to get your thoughts on how you think that election year politics will play a role in the session.
To be honest, I don't think you're going to see a lot of election year politics in the session. I think you've heard from leadership that they want to come in, they want to fine tune some of the work they've done over the past several years. Obviously, there's some issues that need to be dealt with, but for the most part, they want to come in and really fine tune things because everybody knows there's going to be a new governor next year. There'll be new leadership that's there. So we've got work that's to be finished, and Governor Holcomb's going to be bringing forward part of his agenda. Obviously, we've heard some of the agenda from like early childhood education, even from leadership. But I don't think that the Indiana primary is until May, and you aren't going to have a lot of that really gearing up in Indiana during session, which ends March 15th.
All right, quickly, about a minute left. I want to get both of you in here. National politics-wise, groups in more states, as you know, challenging Donald Trump's ballot eligibility. Your thoughts on that? Kip, we'll go to you first. 30 seconds.
I said earlier, I think he's ineligible to run. He was the head of an insurrection, and the Constitution says you're only eligible to run for higher office if you engage in an insurrection. And I would just posit to people who don't agree with that, what's he doing on January 6th?
Tom, less than 30. Take us home.
Well, it's a fascinating theory. At the end of the day, you're asking the Supreme Court to wade into politics. I'm not sure they're going to be willing to do it, and I would suspect he ends up on the ballot in all the states, and they'll be left to the voters. It's
going to be an interesting year, gentlemen. Good to see you both. Happy New Year. We will talk soon, and we will be right back. Well, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. Be sure to tune in at 7 o'clock Tuesday night for our live coverage of the governor's State of the State address. We'll be back here, of course, next Sunday morning at 9:30. And, of course, always online at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.